All right. Welcome into the Knicks-Verse special news video live stream here. We're here to talk about Jalen Brunson. There's news right now. Came out about an hour or so ago. Basically, the news is he has a ankle sprain, and he will be reevaluated in 2 weeks. That's it. No timeline, nothing at all. Not even any details about the severity of the ankle sprain, whether it's a grade 1, 2, or 3. There's definitely major differences between each of those. If it's a grade 1, then that usually is just like 1 or 2 weeks is all it takes to get back. But since they're saying we'll be reevaluated in 2 weeks, I'm thinking it might be closer to a grade 2. Which usually the recovery time for that is 3 to 5 weeks. And as CP for Knicks Fan TV tweeted out that he's hearing that Brunson will be back, or well, they're hoping that he'll be back until the playoffs. Won't be back until the playoffs. So the playoffs. That means there's 20 games left. That means the Knicks have to survive without Captain Crunch Time for 20 games. They're currently the 3rd seed right now, and they do not have an easy person, like someone automatically to turn to, like we had 2 years ago. We had IQ. We could easily turn to him, and he could take over. We even had Alec Burks, who I did not believe in as a point guard, but at least he could hold it down. So there's questions here. We're going to talk about what's going to happen next, and we're going to break down basically what's happening, what has been happening with the Knicks in general. James Edwards III of The Athletic and New York Times put out a great article. I think it was today, or was it yesterday? I think it was today. A great article. I have excerpts of that to talk about. But we're going to talk about all this and what does this mean for the Knicks. We were, if you watched the game last night, then you have been in a state of dark, dread for about 20 hours, hoping for the best. So we got some news. It's, reevaluating in 2 weeks. It's very sparse, but I've also heard that it's not a high ankle sprain. It didn't look like one. I've sprained my ankle. One time was horrific, but I've sprained it a couple other times as well. And I've sprained it exactly the same way that he did, which is basically you land on the tip of your foot and you roll it this way. It looks worse than it actually is, and you can recover fairly quickly. That could mean a month. So a month from now will be April 7th or so-ish. What's going to happen to the Knicks in that time frame? We'll get to it. Welcome into the Knicks-Verse. My name is George. If this is your first time here, please subscribe. Hit the thumbs up button for me. Drop your comments. I read them all. They help me tremendously to hear everyone's different points of view. And even when you agree with me, it definitely helps me. Also, share the video. We're so close to 10,000 subscribers. And we're going to start memberships soon. So keep an eye out for that. Definitely would appreciate everyone's support to the channel by becoming members. That would be wonderful. All right, let's get down to it. Shout out to the chat. We got Drew's Reviews in here. We got Gideon. We got Connor T. Awesome, man. If I can't get to it right now, I'll look at them later. But if it's anything alarming you want me to, or like anything important you want me to look at or whatever, do a little mini super chat. Even $1, it's fine, whatever it is, so I can see it. I do these shows mostly by myself, so it's hard to keep track of everything. All right, let's get to it. Here we go. Knicks PR tweeted this out about an hour and a half ago. Jalen Brunson sustained a sprain to his right ankle. An update on his status will be given in approximately 2 weeks. That's all they said. That's it. So everything else that I know, I've heard from other sources and from just other reporters reporting on it. Ian Begley tweeted this out. Everything on Jalen Brunson's ankle injury so far has shown a diagnosis that is much better than was initially feared by New York Knicks people. X-rays on the All-Star came back negative, so there is no broken bone. That's a good thing. It's a very good thing, actually. He probably would have been gone for a while. he probably would have missed the playoffs. Maybe if the Knicks had been able to survive a couple of rounds, he could come back, but it's very difficult. It's very difficult if it's actual. Depends on where the broken bone is. So this is good news. There's no broken bone. The major, but that is somewhat good news. But with ankle sprains, it's ligament damage. That's truly the major issue. They haven't told us what the ligament, if there is any ligament damage. Specific sprain grade is unknown, so they haven't even told us that. But there is a feeling that diagnosis is significantly better than initially feared last night. So, this is, look, I wish they had more news. I wish they told us straight out what the real deal was. But this is the Knicks. They never reveal fully what the injury status on a player is. So we'll take this for what it is, knowing what we know about our beloved Knicks in the organization. But listening to Ian's tone, this is good. This is good. And it looks like I mentioned before, he will be back in time for the playoffs if all goes well. And we know that he has incredible Wolverine-like regenerative abilities. This guy is a warrior in heart, not as a player. He's a Knick, but he is a battler. The man he's a gamer. He wants to be out there. He wants to be out there with his teammates. And there are tremendous treatments nowadays for ankle sprains, as even opposed to just 10 years ago. So I am fairly confident that he will, if there's no broken bones and no severe ligament damage, because even if there's slight hyperextension of ligaments, maybe a slight tear with, treatments, that can be repaired fairly quickly. And also there's injections. There's injections you can do. So I'm hoping that he's back in time for the playoffs. I'm hoping he's back in time so that he can qualify to be all NBA. He needs 65 games. He's played 60, I believe. So even though we're at game 62 right now, I think he missed. What did he miss? Two games? I can't remember exactly. He missed just a few games, maybe only one game. But I would love for him to qualify for the All-NBA, and I think he would prefer to return in time for the last 5 games of the season. So we're talking about 20 games left. He might miss 3/4 of the remaining games. At this point, if let's say he misses 3 weeks total, then he would return in time for March 28th. So that would leave at least about, we're going to look into the schedule itself. So we'll get into that part. But this is somewhat a relief to some extent. It brings up tremendous issues for the Knicks as a team right now, and how will they survive without their captain, the man who's been saving their asses recently. He has been the reason the Knicks have been able to hold their head above water. And the James Edward III, the trilogy is what they call him, from The Athletic and New York Times, had some interesting comments about that. So here's his article, how Jalen Brunson's ankle injury could torpedo Knicks offense ahead of playoffs. Turn of the calendar year hasn't been great to the Knicks. After the loss to the Lakers, the Knicks are 17-12 since January 1st. And they're about 10 total possessions, and we know what he means, away from being just 12-17 instead. However, Brunson has bailed the New York out time and time again over the last few weeks with go-ahead baskets, game-tying baskets, and so on. He's been Mr. Clutch. He's the most clutch player in the NBA this season, and we cannot overemphasize that. This means someone's going to need to step up, or they're all going to need to step up. And that's my take. Every single Knick on the roster is going to have to up their game to make up for the absence of this incredible player who has saved our asses repeatedly throughout this season. Over the last few weeks with losing that safety valve in itself is a hole too big to fill. I it is a hole that's it may be too big to fill entirely, but the Knicks definitely have enough on this roster to fill it enough and overcome. What might have to happen is a switch in approach to the game every single night, where the Knicks have been a top 4 and 5. Actually, at one time they were the number 1 offense beginning towards the season, and they drifted down to number 2. Then they were at number 3. They were number 3 for a long time until about the last month or so. They were still the 3rd highest rated offense in the NBA, but the defense was lacking. The defense was in the bottom 3rd, from like, I think it was 24th or something like that. So it's going to be interesting to see how this approach is taken, especially by Tom Thibodeau. But I have a feeling I know how it's going to go. It's going to go defense first and let the offense play off the defense itself. And they're going to have to up the pace. The pace is going to have to increase because they can't depend on iso ball. They're going to have to depend on quick attacks at the basket, transition, and just moving the ball around, make the defense, exhaust defenses. That's what the Knicks are going to have to do. Basically, the Knicks are going to have to do to the opponents what the opponents try to do to the Knicks. And I think it is possible to be able to do. There are tremendous players on this roster, tremendous talent. I know we're all in our feelings right now about Josh Hart and about Mikal Bridges and even Karl-Anthony Towns. We're all in our feelings about that. But at the end of the day, these guys are some of the best basketball players on the earth. And now is the time for them to step up. And the beauty is OG has really come around. He got off to a slow start when he came back from that injury, but lately he has showing that he has the fortitude to be that offensive force that he believes he's always felt he could be. Now, is he still somewhat compromised in certain abilities? Yes, but the desire to be great is there within him, and he showed it to us last night. If he had hit one of those 2 3-pointers in overtime that he got back-to-back, this whole game, the Knicks might have been able to pull the game out, but he was willing to take them. That is the important thing here. He was willing to take them. When we have players on this team, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, who are not willing to take those shots, and even Karl-Anthony Towns, who did not take some 3-point shots that he could have taken last night. So it's going to be a team effort. It's going to be an effort amongst the coaches themselves to prepare these players the best they can defensively, but it's going to have to be, they're going to have to win through defense. And I'm going to get into that a little bit later. Let's keep going here. Shout out to Lex. Thank you for joining me, brother. Hey, Foxy, what's up, brother? Yes, smash that like button for me. Appreciate that. Then there's the 3-point shooting, which is the key to everything with this Knicks team. It is the key to everything. And it's also going to be a very key thing about what I'm going to talk about. We're going to have to look at the rookie Pacome Dadier. In my opinion, he is the only true, pure 3-point shooter on this roster after Karl-Anthony Towns. He is the only one left. OG is a very good, efficient 3-point shooter, but it's hard for him to create for himself from the 3-point line. And Mikal Bridges has fallen off tremendously, but they're great corner 3-point shooters. But in terms of a guy who can shoot the 3 from anywhere on the court, it's Pacome Dadier. The problem is Thibs is the coach, so he doesn't trust rookies. But at this point, he's the only one we have on the roster that you can truly depend on. Shamet is supposed to be that guy, but he hasn't shown it to be consistently enough. Let me keep going here with Edwards' article here. Then there's the 3-point shooting issues. New York, since January 1st, ranks 29th in the NBA in 3-point attempts per game. That's attempts. Furthermore, the Knicks are ranked 25th in 3-point efficiency. They're just averaging 34.7 points per game. That is since January 1st. Brunson is the best bet to help New York produce more 3-point attempts because of his ability to create advantages. He's also only one of 3 players on the roster shooting above 35% from 3 since the start of 2025. The Knicks still have a top 5 offense on the season and carry a 4.2 net rating per NBA.com. However, in the 29 games since January 1st, New York has the 12th ranked offense in the NBA and a minus 0.2 net rating. So think about that, 0.2 net rating, but their record, they're a plus 5 in the record right now. They're 17-12. And as he pointed out, a lot of that is attributed to Brunson's heroics. But it wasn't just him. We've seen OG's big buckets. He hit the big 3 recently. Towns has hit some big buckets. So it's not, I get his essence here. This article is the Knicks are screwed without Brunson. But I don't see it that way entirely. There's been other guys who have hit clutch buckets. And in some ways, late in crunch time or as the game wears on in the fourth quarter, Thibs and Brunson kind of they just focus on iso ball. Just give the ball to Brunson and let him work his magic. The problem is that it ices everybody else. And when you need someone else to hit a big bucket, they haven't touched the ball in about 3 or 4 minutes. It's tough. It's tough to depend on them to come through when the ball is literally in Brunson's hands at all times. And we've seen great success when Brunson is off ball. We've seen some great success with this team. So now this team is going to have to find a new identity, and that identity is going to have to be sharing the ball and playing the best defense that they possibly can play for 48 minutes straight. Now, how do you do that with this roster? You have to expand the roster. You have to expand the roster. You have to pretend that you are basically making the most incredible ribs, and you want to put every single spice you can think of, even throw some sugar in there, brown sugar, whatever you can to make this thing as delicious as possible. You have to lean on the entire roster from this moment forward, because the reason you don't have to do that when you have a Jalen Brunson is because he's unstoppable, which we saw last night. And if he had stayed in the game and hadn't rolled that ankle, the Knicks would have won in overtime, in my opinion. And in my opinion, the Knicks should not even have been in overtime, personally. All right, so let's keep going here. However, in 29, okay, they're ranked. The part of that is because of the lack of consistent secondary and tertiary playmaker who draws multiple eyes with the ball in their hands. Now, that is referring specifically to, well, we've traded away guys like that. We traded away IQ, we traded away RJ, and we traded away Dante. Dante is that exact kind of guy. So is IQ. Now, we don't have them, but how can we create that environment with the players that we have? Well, the beauty is we have the best shooting big man in the NBA right now, and that is, well, the second best, because Joker is still number 1 right now, and Towns is number 2, just right behind. Now, lately he's been struggling. He's going through some things. We all know about the personal issues, the friend passing away with cancer, which is horrible. As you guys know, my aunt/mother died of cancer about almost a year ago, and that was devastating. So I know how devastating that could be, even if it's not your own personal family, but if it's someone you truly care about, that could really cloud your mind, and especially it could bring back some difficulties emotionally that he dealt with during COVID, losing a lot of family members. So he's going through that right now, but he will come out of it. He's a professional. He's a fantastic player. He will come out of it, and that is a tremendous advantage that we have with him. We also have OG Anunoby, one of the best defending wings in the game, and he's been playing like that of late. And we do have Mikal Bridges, the guy that we traded five first rounders for. He's been inconsistent, but he has shown flashes. He's got that Grizzlies game. He's shown tremendous flashes for us. And he normally he's been a very consistent player. Hopefully he can hopefully this will challenge him to reach inside of himself and get back to that player that he was. That's what we need right now. And he can be a high volume scorer because he was with the Nets. So he has both experiences, being a top level role player, a third option on a championship level team, Phoenix Suns, or being the go-to guy, a high usage go-to guy, which he experienced with the Nets. He has to find the balance, and Thibs has to help him, and the rest of the teammates have to help him. Now, there are some issues here. Josh Hart is nursing the knee. He's got that runner's knee, which is basically from overuse. And I've suffered from that as well. You know, some days you're fine. Some days you're not. You just got to keep going through it. He probably will need surgery in the offseason. He needs to play smarter, though. He needs to play smarter. He needs to adjust to his body, what his body can give him now. He's still trying to play like the player without without runner's knee, without I forgot what it was called, but patella. I forgot what it was called. But he needs to return. He needs to adjust his approach to the game. And he has playmaking abilities, but sometimes he's a little too wild and helter-skelter out there. And he makes ill-advised passes, and he passes up open looks. That has to stop. Has to stop. And if you decide to drive and the defenses collapse around you, don't force the make. Spray the ball. Spray the ball. Find your guys on the corners, because it'll be Cat or Macau or Deuce or who else? I mean, it could be Precious. You have to spray the ball. You have to change your mindset on how you approach the game now, because you don't have the safety net. You don't have Jalen Brunson, Captain Crunch Time safety net. You don't have that anymore. You guys are going to have to band together, and I think they can. And I have a feeling that they're going to win tonight against the Clippers. I've seen it before. It's happened many times when their best player, their leader, goes down. It emboldens the other guys. It challenges them to be their best versions of themselves. Sometimes players seize up. I don't see that happening on this team. And I don't think Thibs is going to allow that to happen. So tonight, look for a W tonight. They almost got a W last night against the Lakers. The Lakers had no business winning that game against us. We gave that game away. Was it fatigue? Was it, just lack of situational awareness towards the end? Was it moving away from what was working earlier on in the game? Yes, it was all those things. Those are all correctable. All of those are correctable. They're not innate. They're not innate attributes of players and the team itself. Those things can all be addressed. For all we know, Macau comes out and gives us 40 points tonight. And Cat gives us 40. Who knows what could happen? So I think they're going to step up. The issue is, as the games wear on, as the season moves on in the final 20 games, what will these Knicks do? We'll get into that in a minute. This is just speaking of the Clippers game tonight. Mitch Robinson is also out due to essentially knee injury management. Not a knee, his ankle. He just came back, and Knicks played last night. Yeah, he wasn't going to play a back-to-back. So even a bigger imperative for Cat to have a big game tonight. So that means we haven't seen Precious at all play in the last two games. So we're going to see some Precious tonight, and he's rested up. Hopefully he'll meet the challenge. We have no other bigs on the roster. So I haven't seen anything announced, but I sure hope Tyler Kolek, if he wasn't, I didn't see him on the bench last night. So I hope he was on a plane late last night or early this morning to get out here, because he's going to see some time on the floor. I think that he's going to be a big part of this. Okay, let's get to this here. So this is the playoff picture right now. This is what it looks like. If the New York Knicks stay in third, which is going to be a challenge, they would play the Pistons. The Knicks are now 40-22. They have 20 games left, and the Bucks are right behind them, and so are the Pacers, 4-5. Let me tell you something. If the Knicks slipped to 4 or 5, it would not be the end of the world. Why? I was trying to phrase this last night in the live, but it was really late, and I was like, all I could think about was the Brunson thing. And I was trying to figure out, why is there a silver lining in this? Oh, well, the silver lining in this is if the Knicks don't completely free fall, which I don't think they will. Let's say in the next 16 games, the Knicks can play about a 500 ball, or maybe just over it. Maybe they go 9-7, right? So that puts them at 49 wins. 50 wins is usually good enough for a top 5 seed. So if they can pull that off, and I say 16 games because I'm hoping I think Brunson, if they're saying that he might, well, they're not saying it, but I've been hearing that could be ready for the playoffs. I think he'll try to come back for a few games before the playoffs just to get his game legs back. So, that being said, that means the Knicks might slip to 4th or 5th. Honestly, I have no issues with playing the Bucks or the Pacers with a rested, recovered from ankle injury Jalen Brunson, and if the rest of the Knicks that are currently on this roster are healthy enough for the playoffs. As healthy as you can be for the playoffs. I think the Knicks could take care of it, even if we don't have home court advantage. The Knicks could beat the Bucks or the Pacers this season in the playoffs. They can beat those guys. And in fact, the reason I know they can is because we own them this season. We have won the season series against both of these guys in the regular season. So I can take care of that. And then here's the silver lining. The Knicks would then play the winner of the Cavs in the 8th seed. I would rather play the Cavs in the second round than the Boston Celtics at this point. That would be fabulous because I still think with a Mitch by then, with he played 4 games now, so then 24 games, and then he'll play in the first round. He will have played about 30 games, maybe 25 to 30 games at that point. He will definitely be in like perfect conditioning for the playoffs. And remember, he missed most of the season, so he'll be pretty rested. He will be able to terrorize the Cavs' Twin Towers, and the Knicks have a better chance of toppling the Cavs than the Celtics. And then the Knicks could face the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. That is the only silver lining that not only silver, but it's a big silver lining, because the other big silver lining that I see is that this Knicks team is now going to be challenged to figure out how to score and win without Jalen Brunson as their floor general. And that's going to put the onus on the other players to step up and discover things within their game that maybe they had looked away from in the past, or maybe never thought they could actually really approach. Now they will be challenged. I think it is a very strong possibility that this Knicks team could still hold on to a top 5 seed, even without Jalen Brunson. Now, if they can't figure it out and they topple down the standings and they end up a 6th or 7th seed or 8th seed or whatever, and they're in the play-in and they get Jalen Brunson back, let's say we even get the 8th seed. Actually, we won't be able to. I don't think the Knicks are going to fall beyond 8th. So then you play the Celtics in the first round. That is a problem. So the main thing here is the Knicks have to hold on to a top 5 position here so that they can avoid playing the Celtics in the first round at this point. All right. I'm going to take a break here. I'm going to look at shout out to the chat. Thank you guys for joining me here. We got almost 100 in the chat. Nice. Let's see if I missed anything interesting. Minutes restriction. I'm worried Thibs is going to play OG too many minutes. I'm concerned about that. Oh, it's Foxy. Yes, I'm very concerned about that. I can see New York knocking off the Clippers. That's Gideon. Gideon, you said some interesting stuff in the beginning. Gideon in the beginning, he wrote, thank God JB will get his sea legs in no time. Phew. JB is okay. Schedule isn't that bad, and it is winnable. We got the Clips without Norm Powell tonight. Yeah, but Kawhi is he's back, and he's been playing well. Mediocre Blazers. The Blazers they're mediocre, but when they're on, they can really pummel you. And the Knicks struggle with young, athletic teams. So I don't think the Blazers are going to be as easy as we hope, but I do think that we can beat them. And then hobbled Kings without Domas. Okay. I love that. You know what? If the Knicks could win 3 of these games out here on the West Coast, that would be incredible. We'll see about that. Let's see. What else have I seen here? What's up, Sandman? Yeah. I don't want to talk about replacing Thibs or anything right now. We got to focus on what we have at hand and what we can do right now. But you guys all know how I feel about that. Drop the entertainment. Drop those. Yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe later tonight there'll be some F-bombs. I just man, I'm an intense fan. I actually don't even like watching these games in public. I go insane. As I watch it, I run around my house cursing like a madman, or when things are going great, just celebrating like a crazy lunatic. In public, that makes people nervous. So I'm a very intense fan. I've always have been. And when it comes to the Knicks specifically, and my Mets, and the Mets as well, I'm a huge Mets fan. It's a whole other level of intensity. I even said it last night to my girlfriend. I was watching last night's game because I was like, God, I wish I didn't care about this team watching this game, because this is a great game. It was a great game, but as a Knicks fan, it's so painful to watch what happened. Not just the injury, but just giving up the lead and then going into overtime and then giving up a 5-point lead right away, but then battling back and tying them. I mean, it was just such a seesaw battle. It was a great game. If you guys didn't watch the game, you definitely should. If you have League Pass, try and rewatch it. Fantastic game. So I'm a very intense fan, and sometimes it affects me. It affects my mood, it affects my tonality. And you guys know I've been, I try to call it as I see it, but sometimes I have to rein that in. And I spoke my piece about Thibs about a week, what was it, about 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago? I basically called for his, removing him and moving it, looking in a different direction. That wasn't going to happen. I knew that wasn't going to happen. So, see, let me turn this up. Is this loud enough for you guys? You guys let me know. Here, how about here? Now it's better? Okay. And, it just, that's just right now I'm trying to be more positive right now, because the time went, and now is not the time to fire Thibs at all. In fact, this might be the perfect time for Thibs, because now the Knicks have to completely flip. They are not going to be the offensive juggernaut that they have been. And actually, they haven't even been that offensive juggernaut for a little while now. If you look over here, they have been slipping. All right, so for the season, they're averaging 117.2 points per game, which is fifth best in the entire NBA. That's better than the Celtics. That's better than the Pacers and the Bucks. But since then, since the turn of the calendar year, the Knicks are down to ninth, 116.6 points per game. And look, over here, their plus minus is a 0.1, where before that, they were a plus 4 point, or actually in totality of the whole season, they're a plus 4.3. So now they're barely above water when it comes to the plus minus. And that comes down to key bucket making. The clutch buckets that Mr. Jalen Brunson has been giving this team, but not just him. Remember, OG hit that humongous three-pointer. Let's not forget that. So other guys can do it. They can come through. And even Mikal Bridges has come through with a tremendous block. Two of them before. So there's plenty of talent on this team. This team is not going to free fall. Trust me on that. It's not going to happen. And Thibs, that's one thing for sure. He will not let that happen. He will figure this shit out. I mean, these new guys, they got Anton Watson. Don't know much about him, but Marshawn Beauchamp, I do know a little bit about him. The guy he's a quality player. He's a first-round pick. He just hasn't been able to find the right home for whatever reason. It happens sometimes. Sometimes guys bounce around for a couple of years and then boom, they just pop and explode. It could happen with him. He could get an opportunity. He could get an opportunity tonight, for all we know. We shall see. We shall see about that. But this is the other thing I want to point out here. So the three-point shooting, the Knicks for the entire season, are now down to 36.7%. They were they were number one for a long time, for about half the season. They were, about half of the season, they were number one or number two in three-point shooting. Three-point shooting has fallen off the cliff lately. This is what's happening since January 1st in three-point shooting. The Knicks are not even, you can't even see them up here right now. You have to scroll all the way down to 26th. The Knicks are now 26, as James Edwards pointed out in his article, 34.2%. That is not going to cut it. And why has that been happening? So since January 1st, here's the three-point shooting numbers for the team itself. Towns, just under 40%. For the season, Towns is shooting almost 42%. So he's dropped down a tiny bit from the three-point, but as of late, he's actually dropped off a lot. So 39.3%. OG, 38.7%. Those are good, solid numbers. Those are really good. Those are above league averages. 35.8% for Brunson since January 1st. That's like okay. That's okay. But his volume is good. 5.7. I wish he shot even more. But then Bridges, look at him. 33.3. Only 1 out of 3. He's making 1 out of 3 3-pointers. Campaign, 1 out of 3. But lately, it's even worse, and I'll show you those. Deuce, 32%. Shamet, 32%. All right. Kolek, 25%, but he barely gets any time. And Josh Hart, right here, 23.4%. And a lot of that is because he's it could be connected to his knee. He is not going up straight, nice and clean. He's leaning to one side or the other, or he's drifting, and that could be the knee pain. It's just there. He has to figure it out. He hit a big corner 3 last night. I would like for him to take some more corner 3s. That's the other thing. The Knicks are a very decent catch and shoot team, especially from the 3-point line. Even still, they are like the 5th best in the NBA in catch and shoot 3s from the 3-point line. But they're down in the bottom, I think they're 25th in 3-point catch and shoot attempts. So they have to create more of those opportunities. And the way you do that is by breaking down the defense, getting into the teeth of it, getting into the paint, and spraying that ball. Who are the guys who can do that the best? Deuce can do that. Campaign can do that. Towns can get into the paint. I would like to see Karl-Anthony Towns, use a better word, give up on trying to force getting all the way to the basket. Break down the defense. If he sees 2 guys on him, just spray the ball to whoever you see. And then the ball will swing around to the open guy. That is the key to creating more catch and shoot opportunities for this team, because they are a good catch and shoot team. They're not so much off the dribble. Brunson can do a good off the dribble for a while. Deuce, actually, that was one of his main ways that he was able to get his 3-point shots off from off the dribble. But he has actually not been that efficient as of late. So the New York Knicks and Tyler Kolek, if he can turn the corner and get into the paint, this guy will find the open guy. He is a tremendous passer. But he's a rookie. Will Thibs embrace all of this? That is the main question. What is Thibs going to do? What do you guys think Thibs is going to do? I want to hear what you guys think Thibs is going to do. I need to take a break for a second. Okay, let's look at this. Here is the schedule. Not this one. Here is the schedule right here. So tonight we have the LA Clippers. Then Monday the Kings. Then Wednesday the 12th we have Portland. Then next Saturday the Golden State Warriors in Golden State, and that's the end of that road trip. They return back to New York to play the Heat on Monday. And then they play. They go on a little trip to San Antonio and Charlotte. Those are winnable games, very winnable games. Then they have Washington, totally winnable game. Dallas, completely winnable game. And then they play the Clippers at home. All right. So let's say right here, my feeling is the Knicks are going to win tonight, and they're going to be able to pull off the win against Sacramento. I think they might drop the Portland game. And they might drop the Golden State game. So they'll come back with a 2-3 record on this road trip. So that means during the non-Brunson games, they'll be 2-2. They play Miami. I think we can beat Miami even without Brunson. We can beat San Antonio, Charlotte, Washington. The Knicks could go on a nice little 5-game winning streak right here. So then that means so that's 5. 6-7, so it'll be 7. Ooh, nice. And then 7-3. Then they play Milwaukee. That one in Milwaukee might be difficult without Brunson. That one might be a challenge for them. But here's the other thing. That is 3 weeks from now. In 2 weeks, which is right about here between the Charlotte and Washington game, is 2 weeks. We'll get an update. So maybe, let's say it's best case scenario. Let's say it really is just a grade 1 sprain and he's ready to come back. Well, I think they're going to be extra cautious, especially if these are weak teams right here. So, and if the Knicks do win 2 games on this road trip, that'll buy some time for Brunson. And we want to buy more time because we want this team to also continue to challenge themselves and figure out how to be the best version of themselves without him, without depending on him so desperately. They're like junkies. They're like junkies in the fourth quarter. Give me that Brunson smack. Come on, give him the ball. Give him the ball. It's like sometimes it infuriates me. The whole team grounds to a halt, and we just watch him, do his amazing. Watch him use his amazing gifts to break down a defense, but it's taxing. And look, that's why he got hurt. He was trying to do too much because the rest of the team had just basically stopped playing the offense, and they were just relying on him way too much, and it puts too much pressure on that body of his. He's a small guy. He has a small frame, even though he's tough. It's just a lot to put on him, and he tried to get into the teeth of that defense, and he landed awkwardly on Austin Rivers' foot, and that's going to happen. The more and more you do that, it's going to increase the odds of it happening. And boom, it did finally happen last night. So this period of time could be used for this Knicks team to straighten itself out and not be so Captain Crunch reliant. That is my hope. And I feel like it is very possible that this could happen. It's very possible. And then we have Sixers, whatever, they're done. Then there's Cleveland, April 2nd. I would love to see Brunson return in time for that game, April 2nd. Now, mind you, they're saying he's not going to come back, if what I'm hearing, until the playoffs. But that would be nice. So you had Cleveland, Atlanta, Phoenix, Boston, Detroit, Cleveland again, and Brooklyn. That's 7 games. And maybe he sits out the final game against Brooklyn. If Mr. Jalen Brunson can return for these final 6 or 7 games, the Knicks will be able to hold on to a top 5 seed, no doubt. Maybe even hold on to that 3rd seed. But I'm saying that dropping to 4th isn't the worst thing in the world for this team at this point, with the bracket the way it is. Right here. I mean, if this could be the Knicks here playing either the Bucks or the Pacers, and boom, you're going to have to play good teams in the playoffs, no doubt. But you take down one of these 2 teams, and then you face the Cavaliers in the 2nd round. I like our chances. I like our chances a lot. Oh, man. All right. It sucks. It sucks that this happened. There's no doubt about it. Brunson has shown that he's pretty good at recovering quickly. Let's hope that it is closer to a grade 1 ankle sprain. Let's hope that Thibs does the logical thing, which is expand the roster, the rotation. Expand the rotation, not the roster. Expand the rotation. I hope he looks at Tyler Kolek and Pacom Dadier, because the Knicks need some consistent, bona fide, lethal three-point shooting. We need to replicate what Dante DiVincenzo was giving us last season. There's nobody else on this team right now that can do that except for Pacom Dadier and Deuce. Deuce can do it as well, but he's in a bit of a funk of late. Actually, let's go back to look at this here with Deuce. Deuce, he's shooting 32% since January 1st. 32%. And, man, in the last 5 games, he is only shooting 31%. And you know, not that much volume, just under 4. But Shamit's been shooting, so he needs some more minutes. Look at Shamit. Rotate the guys around more. Find a good winning formula that doesn't put too much pressure on certain players to play crazy amount of minutes, because you're going to need everyone as fresh as possible as this season wears on. I think it's possible. I think it's doable. This is not the end of the world, is what is how I'm arriving right now. It's my what I'm deducing here. It's not the end of the world. There are some positives that can come out of this. The team could discover a new identity offensively. A new identity. They definitely going to have to discover a new identity offensively, because Brunson is such a huge part of it. But defensively, Brunson was a minus player. Let's just be realistic about that. He was a minus player. So if the Knicks, let's talk about who's going to start. I knowing Tom Thibodeau, he could start campaign. I could easily see that in place of Brunson. But this is what I would do. This is what I would do tonight against the Clippers. I would start Mitch. Oh no, Mitch is not playing, so he can't. So you have to wait till Monday because of the back-to-back. But let's say on Monday, I would start Mitch at the 5, shift Cat to the 4. OG goes back to his real normal position, the 3. McCall stays at the 2, and you start Deuce, and you go defense. You lean into your defense, and then you run your offense through Cat. You do some pick and rolls with Cat and Deuce. You do some pick and rolls with Cat and McCall, and hopefully McCall will drive to the hoop. He's got to become more aggressive driving to the hoop, because he's got to fill that role that Brunson was filling. And the other beautiful thing is Josh Hart will be the first guy off the bench. So he can come off the bench for Mikal Bridges, and then he can run the pick and roll with him and Cat. And that's been an effective pick and roll. The same with the Deuce and Cat pick and roll. Lean into your defensive abilities with this team and let your offense feed off of that. And any time there's like a quick recovery, a rebound or whatever, an offensive rebound, a defensive rebound, just kick it out. Someone's just got to leak out. Like OG's been good at that. McCall can leak out. We know Josh Hart can do it, but he'll be battling for rebounds themselves. If you put in Mitch into the starting lineup, this team will be able to suffocate and frustrate other teams' offenses and let the Knicks find their footing offensively. That's how I would approach these next 20 games or 16 games or so without Jalen Brunson. That's how I would approach it. Start Deuce and start Mitch. Now, tonight they can't because Mitch can't play a back-to-back. So I think it's going to be Precious. Is Precious going to start in place? Yeah. Oh, man. It's going to be rough. I have no idea what Thibs is going to do tonight, but it's going to be very telling. It's going to be very, very telling. Yeah. Hey, look, Lex. He does. But when he's pinned up against a wall, sometimes he does actually break out of his comfort zone. So let's hope that happens from this moment on. What else here? We got Foxy. What's Foxy doing? Oh, man. Hey, we got Thrifty by Nature. What's up, man? Hey, again, shout out to the chat. If you guys are watching this later on, hit the thumbs up button for me. Drop your comments. The Knicks will be playing in about an hour and 10 minutes against the Clippers. I don't know. I haven't been able to check anything with the Twitter. Have the starters been announced? Have you guys heard? Stefan Bondi tweeted out, Thibodeau highlighted Deuce and Payne as the ball handlers to help replace Jalen. Said Kolek, who was with the G League, is on his way to join the team. All right. Hey, look, this could be the time when Kolek finally gets some time. He starts clicking. The guy can hit the three. I know he's only shooting 25%, but he's doing very well in Westchester, and he was hitting those buckets earlier on in the season. You know, it's hard when you only get a minute or two and you got to just chuck it. Stephon Bondi also asked if if Thibs expects Jalen to return before the end of the regular season. Thibodeau said he doesn't know and referred back to the 2-week reevaluation. See if I missed anything else here. James Edwards says, asked Thibs about the lack of playmaking with Brunson out. Said he believes a lot in Payne and McBride. Mentioned McCall as someone who can step into that role, and Josh Hart is unique in that area as well. All right. But it just shows you. He's talking about Payne. Don't be surprised if Payne starts tonight. Don't be surprised about that. I was hoping it was announced, but it's not. Brunson has played in 61 games this season, so he needs 4 more to qualify for an All-NBA, which he totally deserves. Totally deserves. All right. Gonna break this down. Gonna shut this down now. Guys, thank you guys for joining me here. We got over 100 in the chat. That's fantastic. Thank you guys for joining me here. It's unfortunate. It's for, it's bad news, but it's not the worst. It's not as bad as it could have been. It's really not as bad as it could have been. A 2-week evaluation. Again, it's very nebulous what that means. Having suffered injuries like that, especially the way he did it, I think it's more closer to a grade 1, especially if and it has been reported that it's not a high ankle sprain, and no bones were broken. So it's just a matter of how much damage the ligaments suffered and how much swelling happens. But look, these guys are professionals. I'm sure they did everything immediately to limit the swelling, because once the swelling begins, it's such a pain in the ass to get it down. So everything is being done. The guy is our captain. He's our leader. He's going to get much needed rest, and the team is going to discover, my hope, a new identity. And then they're going to have, let's hope 5 or 6 games, or maybe even 8 games towards the end of the season. For maybe he might only miss 12 games, maybe 14 games. And then they can use those games towards the end of the season to create a new version of what the Knicks were right before Brunson got hurt. A better version, which is about sharing the ball and with greater defensive intensity. That's the sad thing about it, because last night I felt the Knicks were playing some of their best basketball that I'd seen them play on the defensive end all season long. I really did. I thought even Cat, his defense on Luka just made some crazy fucking shots, man. Especially late at the end. But he wasn't that efficient. He actually shot terribly last night. He just happened to hit them when they mattered the most. But that didn't lead to the win. The Knicks were able to tie it. It was when Brunson got hurt in that overtime that they were finally able to basically take over the game and win it towards the end. But they only won by a few points. This team has enough to do it. They have to just discover a new identity. Or not a new identity. Let me rephrase that. They have to discover the identity that is already there, that they just haven't turned to. And that usually adversity brings out the best in somebody. And as Coach Bruce Pearl has always said, adversity reveals character. I know a lot of people, a lot of the fans, the frustrated ones, feel this team lacks character. And most of it comes from Brunson. Well, now this is going to challenge them to discover who they truly are. This could be exciting. This could be exciting. Look, when Randall and OG got hurt last year on January 30th, it looked like the season might be over. But no, the Knicks went on to still win 50 games for the whole season and got themselves to the second round and just one game, actually just a few shots away from getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. There's enough here. There's enough here. All right. Thank you so much for watching this. Again, my name is George. Please subscribe. Hit the thumbs up button for me. Share this video. And I will be starting a membership to help support the channel even further. So keep an eye out for that. I would appreciate you guys joining the membership. It really would help. And at the same time, I am going to start taking calls. I'm doing more lives, and as the season goes on, it's easier for me to do lives in the spring. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Let's go Knicks. Let's take care. Let's pull out a win tonight. It would be the best way. It would be the best soothe for us to have after this Brunson injury. All right, I will see you around the Knicks-Verse.